I would like to thank all of you guys for crushing the like goal on my last overanalyzing video, which was 20 likes, and we broke that within 2 days and basically got nearly 100 likes on the video and over 1,000 views, which I'm honestly astounded on how well it did, and I didn't think it would go as well as it did. So as promised, here's another video about overanalyzing, and I think I'm going to start posting these weekly from now on because so many of you guys have asked me down in the comments below to make this a regular series, which I'm gladly happy to do. Now I'm all about experimenting when it comes to these videos, so if you'd like to see something you'd prefer being part of the series, then please let me know down below in the comments. But without further ado, let's get into the map raid. Now starting off from the front of where the parking lot kind of starts, where you realistically would go to the house, we can already see that there's pillars outside and we already know what somewhat is going on. As we can see, we see that there's a car that hit another car on fire, presumably into this post, which caused it to blow up in the other car. Now what's really cool about this map that I kind of realized was the fact that when you walk in, when you make your way to the left or right side of the map depending on which side you spawn, you'll see that there's this big thing which is kind of the middle of this side. Now one of the things I kind of realized was that there were already bullets and blood on this thing, meaning that there was already some type of war going on before the map even started, as we can tell. Now as you can see, this is blurred out. When I looked up the actual house to see if it was a recreation of it, it was just a regular suburban neighborhood, and this was the only house or the only address on that street that had a blurred out house. So obviously I wanted to respect that and not show that person's actual house. Now what's really interesting about this car actually is when I went through a lot of maps, I saw that this car made its way a lot. One thing that I realized from my last analyzing video I didn't do was actually play on team deathmatch, and the reason why I say that is because now we can tell what the story is by looking at the team. As you can see, this is an FBI and the other team is Mercs. Now you'll notice a lot in the maps that when you see these cars, it'll either be side Mercs or FBI depending on which car this, but I find it interesting. As you can see that there's bullets on the ground, we know that this probably belongs to, probably coming out from the side door over here, which probably slides open. And the same thing with this white van too. As you can see, there are bullets casings on the floor as well near the vehicle, which tells me that this is probably again two-sided thing where we have a van which represents one of the sides and then the black van which represents the other side. And what do I think that went down was, I do think that they were actually probably driving around and shooting at each other. As you can see, we have more bullet casings on the ground, meaning that there is something that's continuing this way. Now obviously we could tell that this is a house of either a Merc or FBI because again there are these vans inside of it, and again it could be a stretch, but like I said before, it could either be the car that they drove into here and parked in here. One thing I like to point out is that the fact that there are 4 different supercars around the map. We can obviously probably assume that this is the owner's car, most likely this one as well. It's kind of luxurious, and also there are 3 of the same cars in this garage as well, so it makes sense that this isn't his car and this is someone's car that drove in here, but again we just don't know. It could be some FBI or Merc operative's house. It would make sense that it's more of a Merc, as we will see later. Now going into the gym, now what I found really interesting the most are the weights in this, because if you look really closely at them, it says 25-25 and below it still says 25-25. The light is very bright, but you could still see that it continues being 25 pounds, meaning they didn't really put in effort. Even with the size difference in the weights, you could obviously tell they didn't really bother changing that, which again, at the end of the day, I don't think it's something you'll notice in game, but still, it's just very impractical to have the same number of pounds on obvious dumbbells that are different sizes. At least they didn't put 25 in this, but they also put 35, but what's funny enough is they still kept 35 on the smallest ones as well. Now another interesting thing while going back here is we can see that there's bullet holes on the walls, meaning that someone was shot here probably trying to scan for the retina, which I find is super cool and detailed once you scope in. Actually, we see a lot of these retina scans in these maps where it's a high security area, meaning that this house isn't just a rich person's house, but it is someone that's probably important. Now obviously this person has a lot of paintings and a lot of artifacts throughout the map that we'll see, so obviously we could tell that they're antique collectors. Now obviously going up into this room, we can already tell that this is probably some sort of office. Are we still using these type of phones in 2025? Who knows. This room kind of like is just very empty, but again, a lot of these rooms you'll notice that are empty, obviously it's because of for the play area. Now speaking of rooms, as you can see there's a door here with a camera. Now if we make our way outside, one of the things I find weird is we know that this is stuck to the wall right next to this. As we go to the other side, obviously it's flat, meaning that either a very tight area or there's a ladder, because because there's no way that there is a door that leads to nowhere on the other side. Now when making our way to the sides, there's nothing really unusual or anything weird about the map. Obviously we could see that that is burning Los Angeles. This map takes place in the same universe as the last map I reviewed, which was Express. When I analyze Aftermath, I do want to see if any of the buildings that we see from a distance are actually buildings that are kind of used and advertisements that are also used in the map. I think it would be a pretty cool reference if we got some of the same buildings we see from a distance from both Express and Raid into the Aftermath, because again, those three maps are intertwined, but they're from a distance. And like I said before, this map does remind us that this is a heavy security area under 24 hours. Now in this room obviously is iconic for trick shots, as we know that we always go for the suicide trick shot here. Honestly, this room doesn't really offer as much as of yet. Obviously, as you can tell already, that there is a lot of flowers in this place, and we haven't gone to the garden side yet, which is already interesting. And honestly, I kind of like that that is the aspect that the person that owns the house went with, because at the end of the day, it does add life, it does add something to the map, it does give it more life to it. It's pretty funny to have a TV just randomly sitting outside. I mean, you're rich, but who is going to watch this from the side? Like, you can barely see it already if you were sitting on the side. Now again, we really get to see a lot of the burning LA. This is perfect for the background scenery. Now I know in my Express video I did criticize the fact that at the back of the map, which we are technically at the back of the map on the side, when it comes to backgrounds, it means everything about what we're seeing, what we're playing, so it feels like we're in the game and we're in the match itself. And honestly, I think it's pretty cool that they added this. You can actually take cover. And also what's really cool too about the hot tub is the water is bubbling up around you. It's details that they probably didn't even need to add, but just for them to add, I find pretty cool. You can tell that it's a pool bar. What I find funny is that you can't even reach it, and usually these type of things are a lot lower. Now like I said before, this map has a lot of plants, and we see a lot of the growing vine plants growing on the house are the pink ones, which I find really cool that they did, because it adds color to the map. Now this map is known for one thing, and that's the basketball court, and it actually is interactive, which is a very cool thing and a very cool neat detail that Call of Duty games don't really have. Except the only thing we have nowadays that are interactive are running through doors. And now this area is very empty and doesn't have really much, but the one thing that I find that they could have added in this area is a garden. Now we obviously can tell that this area inside of this garage thing is obviously gardening tools. As we can see, there's a wheelbarrow over here with a hose and a bunch of tools that are used for gardening, and also adding on to that we have soil here, dirt to add to flowers. Now this room isn't very special other than the cleaning supplies and the laundry room for clothes and all that. Now for the most part, this kitchen does look pretty normal. The only thing that does throw me off is definitely the vault door. What I find funny is the fact that they have an unauthorized entry sign on the opposite side of the door instead of the main entrance, meaning is the person trying to say that you can't get out of the secret room? Other than that, we could see bullet casings obviously leading to inside the door. Now when you come in here, we can obviously tell that there's a reasoning why a bunch of people were here. You could see there's a whole skid of cocaine. Not only cocaine, but there's also this logo, which I'm not sure what it is. I'm assuming that it is probably Black Ops lore campaign, but if you know, please leave a comment down below if you know what this is. And we could tell that there is heavy security in this room from both cameras, and this person has 7 TVs, probably a surveillance room of some sort. What I find funny is that this is a low-key room, but you could see through this darkened glass. Obviously there's already an easy point in. Now this is probably one of the weirdest places to put a TV, but I guess it's just doing it for probably this camera looking at it. Who knows? And an odd place to put a fireplace. A small thing I noticed is that this place doesn't seem to have a door. As you can tell, that this looks like something that's welded onto the door frame itself, so that means that this place is just an open area. Same thing goes for the other side. Other than that, the kitchen does look pretty normal. Food pantry, 2 fridges, and the stovetops and ovens. Obviously the microwave is a little too high, which is pretty funny. Now honestly, this area doesn't really have much to talk about, as it's just a pretty normal area with tree, rocks, and a little bit of water, so I don't think there's necessarily anything to analyze as much. The only thing that I would like to point out though when you come to this area is this pattern here, and this is the same pattern that we kind of see in Express when it came to the blue and the red side things. And an interesting thing that I didn't realize until I was doing this video is that the fact that this is actually water here. Now when going into theater mode, one of the main things that we see in the map is obviously the neighbors, and honestly this is kind of noticeable in game where you can kind of see that there's nothing really leading to any of these houses. You can't see a road, you can't see a path, you can't see a single thing that allows you to get to any of these houses. And again, I guess this is out of the map, but again, it's just kind of something that's impractical. Like, how are we going to get to the tennis court? How are we going to get to that house? And how are we going to get to that mansion? And these are things that you can actually see when you make your way to the parking garage. Behind the map and in front of the map, I do think that they did a pretty good job with the details. As you can see, the road continues, and what I find that's pretty cool is even when you reach the barrier, it seems like the road keeps going. And it's the same thing for the other side and all around where the road is, where we don't necessarily see the end of the road, and it kind of makes us think that it's kind of an infinite road, which is, again, is a pretty good detail, and it gives it more life instead of just... One of the things I was hoping to see in this map is definitely a lot more mansions like this on the hills, because again, these are like hills reserved for mansions, and the fact that like this is the only house that we can actually see kind of just doesn't make really sense unless we're on the wrong hill. But even then, when you look at all the hills from a distance, there's nothing. Now obviously we're able to see upstairs in the bedrooms during the game, but except you can't really see anything much inside unless you're on theater mode. And one of the things I realized that this room is just very bland, and there's no door to get out, and this is just kind of a room they decided to stick. They didn't even bother putting an exit door or anything. Even if you can't see the certain angles in game, it's just something that's very impractical and something that's not even necessary. You could have at least added a door to make it give that realism to it. A good example of what I mean is that we see these two doors. The first door in the bedroom, if we make our way behind that door, it actually does continue. As it leads up to these steps over here, there's a double door which makes its way to another double door. We exit into a balcony. For this other door next to the bedroom, we can tell that obviously there's windows over here, and that obviously continues, and there's a door right here. We can assume that that is probably obviously connected to that, and then it brings us to this outdoor patio over here. When you get to the edge of the pool, you can actually hear the map explosions and fire from a distance, which is, I think, a pretty cool detail about ambience that they added within this game. Now, the good thing about Raid is that it's a 3-lane map. There's no twists and turns when it comes to it. Obviously, there's the middle parts, the two middle parts that connect with each other, making 4 different entryways to meet in the middle. But other than that, it follows the simple rule of the 3 lanes. You could go through the middle, you could go through the pool side, or you could go through the right side, which has that circle statue thingy. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I really enjoyed making this, as this is one of my favorite maps from Black Ops 2. And for next week's map, I will definitely be doing one that's controversial for people that like trick shotting, as I find there's a lot of interesting things actually about it that are very overlooked and no one, I think, has ever even noticed. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have a great day and stay smart.